Dude, I might have this list in different mics because, like, when you're in the Halloween one, where you're like, whatever about Fred or Frank or whatever,
Yeah.
you can like you barely hear it. So there's like
Mm.
other mics that
Pick up
higher
high frequency.
pitch. Yeah,
We're kind of poor, so
yeah.
we just do this for fun. You watched Young Frankenstein
I did.
first time.
It was amazing.
That's pretty good.
My God, one of the best comedies I've seen.
It's A plus. It's A
it is
plus.
A+. I understand why it got a perfect score.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me personally, I get why it's black and white.
Yeah.
But I would prefer
You'd prefer
not,
color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just personal preference. But
Yeah.
it's good.
That's
really
when people said Barbie was like intentionally bad to be funny, that's like the movie that I had in mind. And so I was really disappointed when I did see Barbie and it wasn't that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what factored into it being so bad for me.
Yeah. Dude, I will also say, so Loki is done. Loki is finished.
Really?
So
I have barely
episodes.
started.
Finish it.
Okay.
Because,
I'll finish it and we can talk about it. I have a full week off of school next week, so we'll do it soon.
Yeah, because James texted in our group chat because that's his favorite Marvel character.
Okay.
Loki.
Yeah.
And
he's a fan of the mass murder.
Yeah, I guess so. You say it like that.
Okay.
He was like, I think it was either episode 2 or 3 of season 2. He was like, dude, they're really getting into Loki's powers, like how strong he actually is.
Yeah.
And then it just progresses and
gets super cool.
Yeah. And then Tom Hiddleston's done.
He's
Loki
up.
Done. He
said that's crazy.
14 years.
Because I'm in season 1, the part that I'm at is when they're trying to get, I can't remember the name of the planet. They're trying to get off the planet to get away from like the apocalypse event that they're hiding in.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just that portion's kind of dragged out for a really long time right now, which I know the show gets crazy and like I got to get a little more into it. It's just I got to get over that hump because like it kind of dragged out for a long time. So I was like, it like didn't make me want to like come back to it super frequently. So I'll get into it.
Yeah, his power is, I didn't realize, I don't know if it's actually this much power that he has, but in the show, like, dude's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he's a Norse god, I believe, right?
Yeah,
in their mythology. So,
but maybe I don't know if Loki does this in Norseism.
Yeah,
whatever that is.
Right.
But
it's crazy.
Dude's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, it made me very sad and very upset.
Interesting. At the same time. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to get into it a little more then. I'm looking forward to it. We're not talking Marvel or movies today though.
Nope.
It's music day.
It's music day.
A super good week for music, to be honest. Like just a lot of artists that I was really stoked to see dropping, which is awesome. A couple of albums that we could have focused on, but we wanted to talk about the debut album of Australia's very own, the Kid Laroi. Yeah. I was super intrigued to hear this album because it's like his first proper album. He's released like quite a few mixtapes, and obviously like is no stranger to the charts and success and all that kind of stuff. But really like his first true project, and I was really curious to see what would come out of it because he's an artist that I love a lot of his talent, and like when he puts out a song that is a banger, I really like it a lot. Like he's one of my favorite artists when he can do that, and yet a lot of times I feel like I'm pretty let down by, at least in terms of his mixtapes, like a large portion of what he'll put out on that mixtape. So going into it, I like had that kind of, I don't want to say, I guess just curiosity as to like how it would turn out, because I know he's capable of bangers, but I also know he's capable of very forgettable tracks, and oftentimes it's like not very in between. Anyways, I'm just to preface it all, I'll say that like in general I was very pleasantly surprised with this project compared to his F Love mixtape series.
Valid. I don't know how I feel yet.
I want to come back to it again. I've listened to it fully twice.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it more the second time around.
Okay.
But at the same time, I am getting somewhat of the same vibe as F Love, at least the later one.
Sure.
I think it was the third one.
3.
When I say that, it's more like when it comes to forgettable tracks.
Yeah.
I feel like there's still a good amount of those.
I'll agree with that
in
for
this
sure.
album.
For sure.
But I do feel like there's more songs that I would listen to from this album than the third F Love.
Right. I think because he put out like in that mixtape series, they kind of combine into each like subsequent album, so he keeps like re-releasing them.
Yeah.
And by the end of that project, I think there's like, I don't know, somewhere near 30 songs or something like that. I don't know exactly what the number is, but in that entirety of like all those songs, I feel like I got as many out of there as I'll get out of this one.
Yeah.
So like percentage wise, this one's a lot better, but there's still a lot of forgettable stuff in here.
Yeah, I agree. I think out of his last one, I probably picked up like maybe 3 songs.
Yeah.
And I think, because like I said, I want to listen to it more. But I think I have like 2 that I really enjoyed. And when I say 2, I'm not talking about anything that he's released before, because there are tracks like Where Does Your Spirit Go? And there's another one that he already released.
Love Again.
Yeah. I feel like there's one more.
Kids Are Growing Up or whatever.
Yeah, like they're but aside from that, I have 2 songs downloaded that I haven't heard before. Or that he's dropped before.
Yeah.
So
for sure. Well, I think that prefaces the album pretty well for me.
Yeah.
You want to jump into these categories here?
Let's do it.
So let's talk album production, because this one was, I won't say new territory for him, because he does a lot of like acoustic stuff.
Yeah.
He's done that before, but it's for sure a newer sound. It's not the Without You or Stay. It's not those kinds of banger production for the most part that he's put out before. And there's still a lot of elements and aspects of that kind of like more hip hop trap production that he can incorporate.
Right.
But it doesn't like it strays a little bit into a different territory.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say it's not like annoying or cheap production, but it's not super memorable for me. It's not like unforgettable production that really stands out. It definitely fades into the background as opposed to his song concepts and what he's, his vocals and all that kind of stuff, which I don't mind his vocals standing out, but he's an artist that I think he could benefit a lot from some super good production.
Absolutely.
Like if he came with great production and then came with his unique vocal abilities as well, I think he put out a really, really memorable project and track. That being said, as I'm thinking about it, like it's hard to say like just do a collab album with Metro Boomin, because it's like I don't know if he'd fit a Metro beat perfect. Like I think he could do it, but I don't know if that's his style or if it'd be him on Metro style. You know what I mean? But then if you go to the other side of that and say like put him with Travis Barker, I don't know if he's fully alternative pop punk either. He's kind of like in this weird limbo. But I do think like even someone like a Lou Bell, who Post Malone works with a lot. Yeah. Like if he could get someone like that, or I'm unfamiliar with a lot of who produced the entirety of Juice WRLD's projects, but very similar artists to those two guys. I think if they could get together and put out something more unique in terms of the production, I think it'd be a lot more memorable for me for like a Kid Laroi project.
Yeah. See, when it comes to production, and even just like the Kid Laroi in general, it's crazy because I feel like he could fit a lot of those genres, but not a full project off of one of those producers.
Right.
But I think it'd be so cool if he didn't do a collab album with said artist, but like collab with a bunch of different producers instead and gave us tracks like that. Because I don't know, I feel like not like I don't know artists that do that. One, like get a whole bunch of different genre producers to help with one album.
Right. At least not like big names, right? Like it's not like you have half Metro production, half London on the track.
Right.
Like if you're going to do a big name like that, you usually just work on the whole project with them.
But I feel like he'd benefit from that. Not like he wouldn't benefit from doing what he's doing now. Like he's obviously still super young. He's still learning, growing, all that. But I just feel like it would help him kind of decide in the production element where he wants to go.
Yeah,
If he were to like experiment with a lot of different producers.
for sure.
But for my point, I actually am the opposite of you. Like, I feel like I listen to the production more than I did like the lyrics.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why. I kind of just like brought me like, especially with Bleed, like that being the second one, I just got immersed with like the production of it, like the feeling of it, the vibe, like and just kind of let the vocals play, you know, like not listening to lyrics, but just kind of hearing his voice. But yeah, I was just surrounded by the production, and that's not every single track. I think there's definitely weaker productions than whatever I'm trying to say, but
for sure
there are definitely quite a few where I'm like, wow, this is really good.
Yeah. He's one of the few artists I will say that I feel like can succeed in a high level with very diverse production style. You have him doing some really cool stuff over piano ballad instrumentals with the Juice WRLD tribute track on the album, or the trap album or the trap song with featuring Future, or like any number of in-betweens or acoustic stuff. So I did rate it pretty highly. I gave it a 7 out of 10 for production because I do think he does a lot that's really cool. I think he could make a very, very memorable project with some of those better instrumentals. Yeah,
I definitely, like I said, he's young. I do think he has a very bright future still ahead of him. And I really hope that it comes to be, because I'm just not blown away by his projects, but more so his singles. But I agree. I also gave production a 7.
Cool. Cool. So let's talk vocals, because the Kid Laroi is a unique vocalist. And that's not to say that he doesn't have some heavy influence from some other people. Obviously you hear a lot of Post Malone in him. You hear a lot of Juice WRLD in him, being very like good friends of his and collaborators of his. That's natural. I will say on this project, I feel like he finds a little bit more of his own voice.
Absolutely.
For sure in this one, which is cool. It's generally solid. I think he explores a lot of cool range with his vocals, which I like. There's him in more of his rap bag with finding some cool flows, as well as hitting those high notes that a lot of artists aren't going to do on like what you'd call a hip hop album. I don't know that I'd call this a hip hop album, but you get the idea. And I will say that I think one area that I wish he would improve a little bit on, and this is just being nitpicky, is I feel like his flows are pretty generic when he does go into his rap bag. And I don't really necessarily think of him just like as a straight rapper or like a lyrical rapper. I don't really expect him to come out as Nas or Kendrick or J. Cole or anything like that. But I think that's something that could give him a lot more versatility when he's already so successful at it. If he could find some of that unique territory that's more explorative, that isn't just like, pretty generic for his flows, I think that'd be really cool for him to do.
Yeah, I think he's in that area of like being a quote unquote rapper, if you even want to say that. He's like a lesser Post Malone, because like Post Malone's like not a rapper, like but has the versatility to do and can pull out a melodic flow if he wanted to, and has shown it frequently, I guess. So I feel like if the Kid Laroi just kind of like keeps playing with it, like keep going, he could find his own little melodic rap flow, or if he doesn't want it to be melodic, like spit a little bit or whatever it may be. I'm glad he at least played around with it.
So 100%. I will say I really enjoyed, there was some unique stuff that he did with, like, for example, Love Again, one of the singles on the album. As he's going through the chorus, it's a pretty generic chorus, like, can we find love again? Is this time the end? Like, it's, if you're looking at it, it's not like mind-blowing, things, but he hits these really cool scales as he's going down the word. And I think that's something that he's really good at. And it's really cool to see that kind of stuff. Adds a lot of replay value to these songs for me, because like anybody, well, not anybody, but a lot of people could come in and just be like hitting a high note and say like, can we find love again, and like drag that out.
Right.
But like hitting those scales adds
Yeah.
like an element and layer to that vocal performance that I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite probably songs off the album.
Yeah.
Just because of the ability he has to, like you're saying, scale down
For
an
sure.
entire chorus. Like that's a very difficult thing to do, but he does it very, very well. Like,
Yeah. And it sounds so smooth.
Yeah.
It's something that you don't even like consciously like, wow, that's a lot of effort for him. It's like he just hits it and then you're like, whoa, he just like switched an entire octave in one word.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. Like, especially because how old is this dude?
He's young. He's like
He's
19, something like that.
He's not even in his 20s yet.
I don't think so.
Kid Laroi. He's 20.
20.
Yeah. He was August 17th, 03.
Okay.
But even then, that's
He's
something
young.
not even like professionals do. He is a professional, but like a lot of other
People with a lot more experience.
singers, yeah, like a lot of people can't do that. That's a very difficult thing to do.
Right.
So it's huge shout out for that.
For sure. I do think sometimes his raspy emotional sound that he does, which is pretty unique, I think it gets a little overused sometimes, and it kind of just like lands dead on my ears after a while.
Yeah.
He's very good at it. But I think like a lot of times he just overuses it a little bit too much. And I feel like that's more of like a powerful accent tool that he could use to make songs really powerful at certain moments. But there's a lot of like times where a chorus just hits that over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Again, that's kind of me being nitpicky because I do really enjoy the vocal performance on the album. So I gave it a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah. See, once again, I'm opposite of you. I don't know. It hits me whenever he does that, like a straight shot to the heart. Like it hits me hard. But I get where you are coming from. If it was a whole album or even like 4 tracks in a row, like where he's using that, I would definitely like be like, okay, like let's reel it in. Let's calm down. Let's try something else.
And I don't know if it's just because I've heard him do it so much and do it so well that it's like, this isn't new. It's not really like better than what you've done before. I mean, if I'm looking at the last 2 songs not on this project from him that I've heard him on, he did a song on the Barbie soundtrack, Forever and Again, which I actually think he sounds really good on, as well as he's featured on Trippie Redd's last project, not this most recent one. But on both of those, he does that like very, very hardcore. And those are both tracks I enjoy. Like, it's really cool to hear him do it on those ones. And so when it comes on a track on here and it's like not as well done, I don't know if it's just that like I've heard him do it and do it really well, so it's like kind of forgettable in comparison. But yeah, it
makes sense. I gave it an 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I really liked the vocals on this one.
I did talk about the lyrics a little bit on here, on at least on the chorus, Love Again. And I mentioned like I don't expect him to be like a Nas or like J. Cole when it comes to his writing ability. I mean, they're pretty vulnerable, relatable, honest lyrics. It reminds me a lot of like Beer Bungs and Bentleys from Post Malone. Like, there's some cheesy moments, but they're not like bad moments, like cringy. It's just kind of like tongue in cheek a little bit. But it's not really like trying to be anything too special, which I respect. Like he knows that he's not an Eminem or a Kendrick Lamar. You know what I mean? He's not coming in trying to make these super hardcore word plays that fall flat because they're really bad.
Yeah.
He just kind of knows where he needs to be and stays in there. But that being said, kind of like Beer Bongs and Bentleys, they're very generic tracks that everybody could relate to when it comes to like a breakup song or whatever. I do think there's a lot of redemptive qualities. I think Where Does Your Spirit Go is really well written from a very emotional place. One of the lines that's been stuck in my head since listening through this album again, I know this was a single, but is when he is saying like, numb today, but tomorrow I'll feel it. And like, I think that's such an interesting thing. Like, he's obviously coming from a very emotional place as it is. And so that kind of shows you like the heartbreak level. Like, I think that's a very difficult thing to do, is express the severity of something when you're just in a song like that. And so I do think vulnerable wordplay and lyrics like that are pretty cool. Again, he's not really a lyrical rapper. I was pretty harsh on the score, I'll be honest, but I don't think it's terrible. I just don't think there's anything too memorable. I think a lot of the breakup tracks are pretty generic, which is why I gave it a lower score.
Yeah, that's fair. This is another reason why I have to go back and listen to it, because I need to actually pay attention to the lyrics, or try to, because everything else, like, I was very pleased with. So I don't know if like I purposefully or accidentally tuned out what he was actually saying.
Yeah.
But even then, I feel like if it was that memorable, I would definitely hear the lyrics.
Definitely.
Like, "Where'd your spirit go?" or "Where does your spirit go?"
Mm-hmm.
Or even "Love Again." Like, I know the chorus.
Sure.
Or "Bleed" is another example, but I don't know. I didn't pay attention to it at all, really.
Yeah.
So I gave it a lower score just because I didn't really pay attention. But
yeah, for sure. I think the fact that some of the tracks just, even when, like, obviously I mentioned the breakup tracks already, but another big theme on the album, and we'll get into the concept here in a second, but he talks a lot about the pitfalls of fame and like the effect that fame's had on him. And while I think it's all true and very honest that he's being open about, it's all pretty generic ways of saying what he's feeling and what other artists have already said. And so I think a lot of that gives it a low score. But again, it's not without its redemptive qualities. Absolutely. Like a track like "Where Does Your Spirit Go," where he's obviously coming from a very heartfelt place.
Yeah.
So I gave it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I gave it a 6. Mainly because of how strong "Where Does Your Spirit Go" is.
Yeah, it's for sure. I for sure think it's the best Penn track on the album.
Yeah, I would agree. Which sucks because I hate making singles like the best song out of like the album. Like, I hate thinking that, especially because this one came out a while ago.
Yeah, it's been in the works for quite some time.
But it really is. It's the best song.
And it's understandable why then he would choose to make it a single, realizing that his pen really showed out on there. But let's continue into the concept here, which we've meant, or which we've talked about a little bit. And I'll repeat kind of what I've already said. It's a very relatable breakup album, and I mean, like, we're not very famous people, but the statements that he's making are very relatable to fame, I feel like, based on what other people talk about in their music. But that's a little bit of the pitfall of this album, is it's very relatable, and as such, it's already been said very many times by other artists.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback. It's nothing new that I've really heard. Like, when it comes to what the song is about, or what the album is trying to tell, or it's all been said before, which it's a hard thing when you talk about like love or breakups or relationships or feeling down. There's a lot of subjects that are so hard to do because everyone talks about it,
right? Because
it's so relatable. So it sucks because he's basically just getting the short end of the stick.
Like, for sure.
They're good songs. They're like solid lyrics.
For sure.
If you were to do it, when you weren't born like 20 years ago, then it'd be like crazy good. But it just, the time period that we are in, the artists that we've had before him, it just sucks. Like, it's
and in my mind, like, and to be honest, I didn't really even think of this comparison all that much before we've sat down here to record this episode, but the more I'm thinking about it, like, it really does, it's very reminiscent stylistically and concept wise of Beer Bongs and Bentleys to me from Post Malone, talking a lot about reaching a peak level of fame and the heartbreak of relationships and all of that, interspersed with some other, personal anecdotes and things like that. But if you look at like even just the two like radio hits, what we might call on this album or on these albums, with Better Now from Post Malone and Love Again, it's like, to me, Better Now stands out as a much more memorable track because of what he said when it came out. And again, not in and of itself a very original concept. Like, people have talked about all kinds of things in that breakup song, but because the Kid Laroi is coming at a long line of people that have already run and rerun this this concept over and over again, he does kind of get the short end of the stick. But that's not to say it's like a terrible concept, or it's like that he shouldn't write a breakup album just because it's relatable. But yeah, I would have liked to see him explore some more original territory. Like I will say the interludes where people are being interviewed about their breakups and stuff, although those are a little generic too, and like the answers that people give, it's a cool concept to incorporate.
It's different. Like I haven't to go interview other people and like just pick their mind. Yeah, definitely a different little avenue. So like respectable.
Right. So I will say I enjoy that. I gave this one a 5 as well because I don't think it's bad. I just think it's been done better by other artists.
I gave it a 5 as well. Like I think if you would have replaced this album with Beer Bongs and Bentleys, like I don't think it would do as good as Beer Bongs and Bentleys because there's way too many classics on that.
There's a lot of hits.
I feel like I would enjoy a lot of these songs a lot more immediately.
I will say that if this album just came out, like if this was the first breakup album I heard, then I'd be like, this is really cool. Like I love the concept, super relatable. The fact that I like hear a lot of artists do this is, makes it hard. But let's move into these features, because I was very disappointed with this feature. Even just the feature list when I saw the track list before the album came out. I will say that what's the word I'm looking for here? It certainly left a lot to be desired. I'll say that.
Yeah. Like it's upsetting because I get like a lot of these celebrities and artists are cool with like one another, like are very easily able to get in contact with somebody. I get it. And I get that you kind of want to do your own thing. Like, it's yours. But when you're friends with Post Malone, Justin Bieber, you've done so much work with Juice WRLD. I think that's the one that actually upset me, is that there wasn't like even just like a small thing from Juice. I would have liked that a lot.
Even as like, because I believe there's an interlude right after Where Does Your Spirit Go? Like they must have conversation on conversation, and maybe it's too personal for him to like put that out there, but like it would have been nice to have like something to like just show how personal that connection is with him.
I don't know, there's so many artists and people that he could have chose to help out, and those I don't know who's on this album. Like I've got
a list here, but like he's collaborated with like Polo G. He's collaborated with Post Malone, like you've said. He's even got songs with Miley Cyrus, Fabio Foreign, like drill artist. I do think there's just so much more that could have been explored. He's got a track that he's on with Black Bear. Like you're saying, it's understandable. Like I get him and NBA YoungBoy are friends. Like they've been on a couple songs of each other's for a while now. But I think like the NBA YoungBoy feature was so weak on this album. And in actuality, like the first portion of that song, even the chorus of that song, I don't really mind. From the Kid Laroi. I don't think it's the best on the album, but the YoungBoy feature just doesn't fit to me on that album. Central C is another one that I think Central C has some pretty good lyrical talent, but delivers a pretty weak feature where he's talking about like making sure his girl brings antidepressants so she doesn't ruin their vacation. Like it's just some weird cringy kind of stuff. And not that there's anything wrong with like taking your meds if you have mental health, but it's just like so weird to like throw that out there in the middle of a feature. I will say I didn't mind. I believe, is it Jungkook who's from is he on this out on that song? I couldn't remember who it was, but I don't mind that feature too much. The future feature is okay to me. And Baby Drill, and I believe you pronounce it David.
I would assume so.
They were okay. They're kind of like take it or leave it for me. I don't feel like they add all that much to the songs they're on. But even Future I felt like was pretty forgettable, although he didn't like do a bad job on it. I definitely think there's a lot of artists that could have added a lot to this album in terms of its replay value, in terms of
and even depth.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. There's like, so all of those songs when they first played, I didn't know about any of the features or when they came up or whatever. I just kind of put my phone down and listened.
Sure.
And a lot of the songs where there were features, I started getting hyped. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is a solid song. And then the feature would come on and I'm like, oh my gosh.
You're like this is
downhill
terrible.
immediately. Yeah. The second time I listened through the Jungkook feature, I was actually more pleased with it the second time around. I was like, okay, like this is honestly not that bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very unique voice. Not one that I am used to listening whatsoever.
Sure.
But it was cool. It was cool. So
yeah, I do think Jungkook and Future were the best features. But I think there's just so much left on the table with him. I know you don't need Justin Bieber on the album to make like another stay. I get if he feels like he's run through all of the material that he wants to do with Juice World for whatever reason, but I just think there's so many avenues that he has that he didn't explore on this one. And on that same thought, I do understand that a lot of this is a personal album for him,
right?
And so I don't necessarily think every song needs to have a feature. I think Where Does Your Spirit Go is a perfect solo song for him to do.
Yeah,
I think even Love Again is a perfect solo song, but when it's a fairly generic album in terms of what you're saying, I don't think it's bad to add a lot of artists that have, like talent to say on this. And even like, if we're talking like generic features, just because I'm thinking generic thoughts right now, like a Chris Brown or a Jack Harlow would sound cool with him.
Yeah.
Like there's just so many artists that I think would be really willing to work with him and likely know him, or I just think there's definitely a lot to be left on the table here, which is pretty disappointing. I gave it a 3 out of 10.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I gave it a 5. Which I don't know. I feel like you have to really piss me off to get anything lower than a 5. And
if it's tolerable, it's a 5.
Yeah, because it's like they're not instant skips. It's not like what I was like, oh my gosh, this is like terrible.
Yeah.
No, it's just like, okay.
Yeah, kind of.
I guess
could care less for it. Sure.
Like
even the Young Boy feature, which I hated on pretty harshly so far, like he doesn't start off all that bad. It's kind of midway through his verse when he gets into his higher vocal pitch that it really annoys me. But
it just sucks because it's like we don't get Kid Laroi often. Like it's not like
it's been
like
3-4 years.
Yeah.
And honestly, the best singles he's put out in between then didn't even make the album.
Right. So it's it just sucks because he's probably already worked with a ton of different artists within that time. So like, when are we gonna get those? Or like, honestly, why didn't you put it on the album?
Yeah, honestly, and like even he's got a song with MGK off of the F Love song, and both of them kind of do that pop rap alternative stuff in a pretty fun way. I think not necessarily to get him again, but like a Black Bear or an Ian Dior or a 24K Golden or Jaden Hossler. I think any of these artists could have done something really cool with him. So that was a little disappointing.
Agreed.
But let's get into our last subject here, the replay value. There's definitely a few songs that I'll come back to on here, even non-singles. Like I think I'll enjoy Where Does Your Spirit Go, Love Again, just like I have since they came out. But I'm blanking on a couple of the names right now. But like Bleed's one that I think I'll for sure come back to and I'll enjoy quite a bit. I Thought That I Needed You is a fun one. I even enjoy Sorry a fair amount. Like there's definitely quite a few that I'll come back to. He's for sure a catchy or a master of this catchy pop rap stuff that he does. And he executes that pretty largely. But like we've said, a lot of the album's still pretty forgettable and songs that I won't come back to all that much.
Yeah, there's I'll say it again, like, because I have to listen through again. I only downloaded 2 that came strictly from this album, which were Bleed and Where Do You Sleep. I thought that one was really cool.
I enjoyed that one.
But I know there were definitely some that I enjoyed their sound a lot, so that's why I have to go back and listen. But
yeah,
there's more forgettable than there are with replay value, and so
for sure.
I definitely rate it pretty low. But but like the ones that have replay value, to me, have a lot of replay value.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
will
would
agree
listen to a lot. Like
Yeah.
where we say that a lot, but Where Did Your Spirit Go? Like,
or even Love Again, I think is like
both of those songs I've listened to. I wouldn't be surprised if they were in like at least Where Does Your Spirit Go? I wouldn't be surprised if that was in like my top 5 most listened this year. Like,
really,
yeah. So
yeah. And
I
I think you know, just that it's such a relatable song. I've seen a lot of reviewers rate that song pretty harshly because they're like, oh, it's kind of annoying. But I really do get invested in the emotional aspect of the song, which I think is the driver for that one. But
yeah, it's not like you're gonna listen to that song like
in the club.
Yeah, like I don't know.
Yeah,
I just
for sure.
It just seems like whenever it comes on for me, like shuffle wise, I'm just in like a cool state where it's like,
yeah,
I'm not doing anything crazy. Like,
yeah. It's
I'm
just
down.
you're down to be a little introspective for a
Yeah.
minute. I will say I was pretty disappointed that there was some songs that I assumed were going to be singles from this album that didn't make the cut. I think 1,000 Miles is his best track that he's ever put out.
Really?
I love that one a lot. I really was hoping that was going to be the lead single and find a place on this album. Can't Go Back to the Way It Was, which says, like, in parentheses on that single, it says intro. And so a lot of people, including me, were like, oh, this is the intro to the album.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's super sick. It was a song I really enjoyed a lot. He clarified and said, this is an intro to the new Kid Laroi. Like, I'm not going back to the way it was. This is the intro to my new era of music.
That's pretty cool.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the song. So I was hoping it would make the album. I Guess It's Love is another one that I enjoyed a fair amount that I wish was on this one. But I do think he left like a little bit to be desired. Like, I think there's some forgettable tracks that could have been swapped out for some of those that I appreciated.
See, at the same time, like there are times where I'm glad that artists don't, or like decide I'm not putting this one on the album, but like at least we have it.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's like, what if, I mean, it didn't happen, but let's say like Bleed didn't make it, and instead it was one of those 3 tracks. I'd be kind of like upset. Like, well, no, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't know. But
now that we have both, it's nice to have both.
At least I'm very glad that I
for sure.
both of them.
Yeah. Anyways, I gave the replay value a 6.5 because, like you're saying, the tracks that I do enjoy, I enjoy a lot.
Yeah.
They're very playable, which is always a big thing for me. Like, if I can play it in more than one situation in my life, that always adds to the replay value for me.
Yeah.
But there's a fair amount of forgettable stuff on here.
Yeah. I gave it a 6. It could go up if I were to listen a couple more times, but
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Mine came out to a total of 6.1 out of 10. I'd probably give it a 6.5, honestly.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty close. Mine came out to 5 3/4, 5.75. Which I mean, I was very harsh on the features, which is definitely what lowered it. So that being said, it's probably close to a 6 or 6.5 for me.
Yeah.
If it ages well, I could even say like a 7, but I believe I gave Sampha right in that range, and I don't think album wise this is the same quality, even though this has a lot more replay value for me. But yeah, what do you have for the best, worst, and most underrated song on this project?
So I think I'm not gonna, even though it is, I'm not gonna say that Where Does Your Spirit Go is the best one, because I feel like it's known.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Bleed. Also because I feel like Love Again
gets the love it deserves.
Yeah. But I definitely think the best one is Bleed. I think the worst one was I think it's What's the Move. I hated What's the Move. with Future and Baby Drill. It was just
And
the beat was cool. Kid Laroi's part was cool, but like I was not a fan of it. Like and then underrated, I'm probably gonna say Where Do You Sleep? Oh, it has a star by it though. Oh well. This will be my only time where it's not following.
It's getting some love, but for sure probably not as much as his biggest work. So we can at least say underrated in his discography.
Yeah. Man, I should have paid a little bit more attention for that one, but oh well. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the best track is Love Again. If I were to stray away from that, I would say I can't remember the full name. It's a long title. I Thought That I Needed You, I think is really good as well.
Is that the second to last one? Third to last one?
I think it's pretty. I'm not remembering where it falls in the track list. It's the third song. I knew it was towards the top. It's right before Where Do You Sleep?
Yeah.
Anyways, I enjoy that one quite a bit. It does have a star, which is why I wouldn't like put it in my underrated tracks. I really think NBA Youngboy ruined this album. So Call Me Instead is for sure the worst song. I honestly like, and people can call me a hater, and that's totally fine with me because I will stand by it. Like, I really just don't like NBA Youngboy's music. Yeah, I've heard a couple of features and moments where I really do like him a lot. Like on the Joyner single that he was on, I really enjoyed him. Yeah. But I and even just taking him out of the equation, it's a pretty generic Kid Laroi song. Like the chorus isn't all that original or impressive, and the production's pretty like straightforward. It's not bad, but anyway, so I'll keep that as my worst. Valid. And if I'm talking most underrated, this was a single too, but the single and the album version are not getting the love they deserve, I don't think. And that's Kids Are Growing Up. I think it's a really cool I don't know exactly what to call it. It reminds me a lot of like on Kanye's albums, or on there's a couple of hip hop albums like this where they'll get on and at the end of the song they'll like just spoken word tell a story of like making the album or of their journey to where they are, and like shout out a lot of people. And I love that he kind of takes that concept of like sharing his experience and his journey of going through life and fame and getting to where he is now, and kind of just all the reconciliations that he's had to make with like balancing life and fame and being there for people in your life while still having to look out for yourself and focus on yourself. I love that he incorporated all of that just into a great track at the end of the album. I think it's a really good storytelling moment for him that he doesn't have a lot of in his discography. So I will say I understand why it's not like exceptionally popular, because it's not like a radio track that you're going to come on and hear, but I do think it's a cool storytelling moment that is a little foreign for him as an artist.
Valid. Well, cool.
So that's the Kid Laroi, man.
That's the Kid Laroi.
His first album, I'd say it's his best album so far.
I would hope so.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, like I enjoyed this better than each iteration of the F Love mixtapes. Yeah. So
that's fair.
I don't think this is going to make like a top album list of the year for me, but it's going to give me some songs that I enjoy and come back to. So I'm grateful for it. I'm hopeful that he can continue to grow, because like we've talked about, when he comes out with something exceptional,
it's exceptional.
Yeah, I don't care how like radio TikTok played it is. It's great. Yeah. Like it's great music. So I'm hopeful that he continues to develop and grow and find more of his own voice, because there's a lot of moments where he kind of still mirrors a lot of his influences on this project. So it'll be cool to hear him find his own sound a little bit more. But
yeah, I'm excited to see what he has in store. So
all right,
cool.
Cheers. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Can you like and comment on podcasts that aren't on YouTube? Find a way. Do it.
Do it yourself.
Nah, but I appreciate all the listeners that put up with me and my shenanigans of roasting NBA Youngboy.
For the same exact thing.
For not knowing when Scream came out.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all old scary movies that are before my time.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
That one was on YouTube.
Yep.
But
Cheers.